I don't want any fainters. You don't get brownie points for fainting. So
No?
I'll try to call maintenance. Didn't work when I tried last time, but I don't know, maybe it's better.
Yeah.
Might not make a difference, but in case it does. All right, so I just got a couple of quick reminders. And we're going to
Come on, bro.
It's really hot today. Sorry about that. All right, so a couple of reminders, and then I will turn it over to Ellie. So welcome, everybody. Next week is kind of our last traditional class that we have together, where I'll be actually teaching it instead of saying, and today's presenter is. So next week we're going to talk about leadership and conflict resolution. Good stuff. There's nothing that is due next week per se, but I am going to put up some relevant resources in next week's learning module that I'll ask you to check out before we meet. This is Ellie. This is my colleague, Ellie. Hello. So just come back. So Ellie has an MBA. She's a career coach and adjunct professor here in the office that I work in. She's here to give a presentation on career planning and goal setting for you, and any questions you have, this is the time to ask them. So without much further ado, I'm going to turn it over to her.
Good afternoon. I just want to grab a handout for you. If anyone else comes in, would you do me a favor and make sure that they get what I was on? Okay, perfect. They also got one. All right. So as Professor Hale mentioned, my name is Ellie Bridges. I'm a career coach here. I've also worked in industry as well. I was briefly a recruiter. I recruited in technical fields, so I did some engineering roles, but I also did accounting and IT. So I kind of speak from it from a variety of different perspectives. Many of you, I was reading through some of the things that you hope to explore. Many of them are career related, but also folks are interested in how do we not work until I die, or how do I explore other career interests or other interests outside of my career. And so what we're going to talk about today is setting goals. Goals come in many different shapes and sizes, and I would encourage you to think beyond just career goals and think about how you can build and plan a fulfilling life for yourself. Okay, so we'll jump in. That's a little bit what we're going to talk about. We're going to specifically talk about what do you do as well if you get in a job that is not a good fit for you. Like this, I do not want to be here. I don't really intend to stay here. How do I pivot from that into another role? Okay, and then how do I ask for a raise? Right? How many of you have ever asked for a raise? Okay. What's the process like?
I don't know, it was like walking in the office, kind of nervous. Hey, I've worked here for a while. What do you think about giving me a raise?
Sure. How'd that go for you? Did it work out pretty well?
Yeah, it went out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you perceive that that will be the same when you've been in your career 10 or 15
No,
years?
no.
Yeah, exactly. So let's chat a little bit about what that process looks like and how can you prepare so you can feel really comfortable and confident when you walk in and ask that question. Okay? So we're going to start and talk a little bit about goals. How many of you feel like the last 5 or 10 or maybe 20 years of your life you've kind of been an autopilot? Thank you. Okay, a couple of you. How many of you feel like it could be really easy to become on autopilot if you do not think about your goals?
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, right? You just kind of go through the motions, right? If you think about your life leading up to this point, probably K through 12, those are pretty well set, right? You advance from one grade to the next. Sometimes you don't have much choice over the classes that you take. They tell you to take these tests, you pass these tests, you go to the next grade, right? And at the end of it, you graduate. Okay? For some folks, that might have been a little bit different, but generally, that's kind of the process. And you as a student or as a learner often don't have a lot of say in that process. It's just something that kind of happens. Okay? Maybe the same when you get to college, right? You come to college, they say, you get to choose your major, but then they say, these are the classes that are required to take as part of your major. You do have some selection as part of that, but again, your choices are pretty limited, the program is pretty specific, and everything is laid out for you, right? When you go out to co-op, they say, this is the process, this is how it works. You're responsible for selecting the co-op and making that work, but again, the process is pretty set out. And so just kind of following that, right? And then graduation. So there's hopefully an ending point for all of you in your program and then graduation. So what comes after graduation? Who controls that? Who says what you do or what you don't do, right? Yeah, you. So for some folks, they'll choose to pursue something professionally, so career, go right into the field. Other folks will go into graduate school. Other folks will take a gap year or do volunteering or decide to live in a camper for a a year and travel all of the US because you're having a quarter life crisis. Those are all things, and that's okay, but it's helpful to have a little bit of control in this process, right? These might be some of your goals. Your goal might be right now you're really focused on climbing the corporate ladder and excelling professionally. For some of you, you're going to have relationship goals where you might be interested in finding a partner or getting married. Others might be interested in buying a house or having children, okay? These are some things that people kind of go and it can be really easy to become on autopilot and kind of go through these motions. I would encourage you to live with intention and try to plan your career and your life how you would like to live it. Okay? So we're certainly going to talk about career, but I also want you to think about some other areas. For some of you, you might be sitting here thinking, kids, a house? That seems a little far off. Let's not jump too far in advance, but that could be something that you're planning in 5 or 10 years, and that really comes before you know it. Okay? So, yeah, this is something I love. Live your dream. Create your life. Be intentional. Okay? And don't just let life happen to you. Okay? So there's 6 different types of goals that I'd like to talk about. I think these are the main goals. Some folks also group in professional development as a goal. I think that this can come under career for many folks or educational. Okay? So thinking about all of these goals, right? Are these goals that you think about daily?
Yes.
Yes. Does everyone think they think about these daily? I don't think about these things daily, not unless I take some time and sit down and think about it. You know what I want my relationships to look like? Whether that's with a partner, or spouse, or just with my friends. How often do I want to get together, right? As co-op students, you've been introduced into the world of work and what that looks like and how you have to manage your time and your responsibilities. And it's very easy to spend all of your time in career or spend all of your time in education and school and miss out on some of these other areas. So just focusing and really thinking about each of these is beneficial. So what I'd like you to do now is to take about 4 minutes and think about what you want your life to look like in these different areas in 3 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. Okay, so this is at the beginning of this document. What do you want your life to look like? You can be as specific or as vague as you would like.
Have you read The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy?
I haven't.
No, it's a good book, you should check it out.
Okay.
I think it'll help you in your discussions and put a new perspective once you start.
Okay.
It's like super cool.
Okay.
It's like compounding negative and positive choices if you're not making a conscious effort. Negative choices continue to pile up, and you get further and further away from your attained goal versus if you're making a small, minute, positive choice. That ultimately ends up making a great change over a little while, over a long time.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so it's at the top of your page here. So what do you want your life to look like in 3 years, 10 years, 20 years? Thinking about it from multiple different perspectives. one more minute. Okay. Is anyone interested in sharing a goal that you're personally considering? I can share one. So I have 2 investment properties, my spouse and I, and we just started doing this. So for me, it's deciding, is this something we'd like to continue doing? And if so, then setting a goal for over the next 3 years, how many other properties we would like to acquire, and what that process looks like. So for us, and for me personally, I'm really interested in real estate investing and what that can look like in terms of my financial goals. Yes?
What kind of properties do you have?
I have a single family and a multifamily rentals. Yeah. Is anyone interested in sharing a goal? Yes?
Career-wise, I want to be like getting meaningful experience in the engineering field, but also like have one active like startup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So exploring some side hustles along the way. Awesome. Yes?
I said like 3 to 10 years, like comfortable financially, but also saving for the future still, instead of just focusing on then like trying to figure out how to successfully invest or save for like future kids or future job moving or anything like that. So.
Yeah. And so you bring up a great point, right? What does comfortable mean? It's really easy to, excuse me, do you guys have a question? Okay. It's really easy to say comfortable, but what does that mean, right? Like, let's get more specific. Let's create a SMART goal of, when do we want to have a certain amount saved? How do we evaluate how much we would like to save? I think it's important to think about when is enough, right? I think some people can become obsessed with creating wealth and earning money and not really having an idea of how much is enough for me and my particular goals. Excellent. Did you have a question? Okay, thank you. All right. So let's take a look at the next section. So in developing SMART goals, obviously each of the letters stands for something. So S stands for specific. So how can we get specific? How can we really evaluate what do you want to accomplish, okay? And how can you focus that goal? So ask yourself a lot more questions about who, what, when. Okay? Measurable. Let's put some numbers to that. You can add a unit of measure, so in this case, comfortable. Okay? How can we define comfortable financially? Can we add a dollar amount to that? Can we say, for some folks that might be $1,000, so that might be a 6-month emergency stash of $10,000, or having $100,000 in the bank. That can vary for people. So really defining what that means and adding a unit of measure. Okay? And then thinking about it, is it attainable? Okay? Some folks said, that they have trouble setting goals, or they feel like they just do things without having goals set out. It's really important to identify, is this something I can do? Do I have a track record in the past of being able to set goals? Do I have the experience or skills I need to actually be able to accomplish this? Or do I need some additional resources? Do I need to talk with someone who can help me figure out how to do this? Okay? And also, can I split this goal into smaller steps, right? Folks who say I want to lose 15 pounds often don't break that down. But when you break it down and you say, I'm going to exercise 3 times a week for 30 minutes, or I'm going to eat low carb as well. If you can break it down into multiple steps, people tend to be much more successful. So how can we do this with your career and financial and relationship goals? Okay. And then finally, relevancy. So is this goal relevant? Is this goal part of your larger plan? Is it something that is important to you? If you feel like you're just creating a plan for someone else to make someone else happy, or if it doesn't really tie into your larger goal, you tend not to follow through as much. Okay? And then finally, time bound. We add some dates to this. We say, I'm really interested in talking to my previous co-op employers about full-time positions over the next 4 months. And that helps you establish some timelines, right? You can break that down into smaller pieces. You can add a reminder in your calendar to make sure that you're making progress to that. Okay? So these are really the steps of SMART in creating goals that cover all of these bases and ensure that you're more successful. Okay? So let's take a look at some of the goals that you may have shared, your classmates may have shared, of things that you're interested in doing. Okay? So for many of you, you're interested in graduating. Other people are interested in taking professional exams, going to graduate school, finding mentors, learning technical skills. Okay? So, and you yourself have created some goals as well. So we're going to break these down and think about how you can turn some of these goals into SMART goals. Okay? So let's walk through an example. Okay? So how many people are interested in graduate or professional school? Or maybe interested, you're not really sure. Okay. Yeah, so let's walk through what this might look like. If you're interested in pursuing a master's in engineering or mechanical engineering, okay, we can be specific. That is the goal. Not, I want to go to graduate school, but here's the specific program that I know I want to pursue. Okay. Measurable, how many programs are you going to apply to? How can we add a unit to this? Okay. So knowing that graduate school can be competitive, and sometimes you don't always get in, let's say that we're going to apply to 5 specific programs. Okay. How do we know that this is attainable? Okay, we know this is attainable, and by doing this, we're going to break it down into several steps. So we know it's attainable because you maybe have had strong academics, you feel comfortable receiving letters of recommendation, and we can break down how you're going to do it. So you're going to take the GRE, you're going to write a personal statement, you're going to ask for 3 letters of recommendation. Okay? And knowing that measurable and time bound is important, we can also add some timelines of when we expect to do that. So we're going to visit schools in the spring, and then we're going to apply in the fall, so that we can hopefully start graduate school the next fall. Okay? And we know why this is important to you. It's going to help you develop some more skills, hopefully increase the amount of money that you can earn as well. Okay. So does this make sense? Does anyone have any questions? And so we write it all out this way, but then we want to pull all this together and ideally have a paragraph or a blurb of information. So it's essentially just molding together what you've written there and creating a solid statement. Okay? Personally, I like to write my goals on sticky notes, put them on like my mirror or on my journal or on my computer screen. It's much harder to forget about those goals when they're kind of in your face and very visible every single day. Okay? So this is one example. I also wanted to walk through, like we just think it's a financial and personal goal for you guys before we jump into having you work on some of your own. Okay, so I talked a little bit about my interest in real estate and purchasing homes. And also one of my goals is I've sat for the real estate test, but have not taken my certification. So that's another personal goal of mine. So if you're interested in this, maybe you understand how to buy a house, but I've learned that many folks do not. So I can just kind of briefly walk you through it using this example here and hopefully provide you a little bit of information along the way. Okay? So if we want to become specific, maybe you're interested in purchasing a home here in Cincinnati, and you want to do that upon graduation. Okay? It's really important as you're getting ready to do that to break that down into some steps, right? It's important that you think about what type of home you want to purchase. Is it a single family home? Is it a condo? Is it a multifamily home? You're going to do some real estate investing. What size home are you interested in? Do you care if it's a 900 square foot home or you really want a 4,000 square foot home? What price? What's your price point that you're looking for? Okay. You also probably want to learn a little bit more about the home buying process, right? So the different types of loans, how you find a real estate, if you can purchase it on your own, land contract, all sorts of things. Okay? And then you want to start setting some financial goals. So it's really important to have a down payment. So thinking about how much you're going to set aside monthly. Okay? And we can make each of these measurable by setting times for them. So we can say in the next 2 months, I'm really going to think about what I want in a home. I'm going to take some time over the next 6 months to really dig in, look at some online resources about how you purchase a home, how you meet a realtor, what that looks like. And then I can actually think about, once I know that information, how much I'm going to start putting away. So that way I have the money when I want to make this purchase. Okay? Okay, so it's kind of lots of little goals coming together to create a much stronger goal, something that you can actually attain. Okay? We know that this could be attainable based on how much you expect to make after graduation in terms of salary, and we know that you want to do this pretty soon after working, so within a couple, maybe a couple months or a year of working. So by being able to set a date, a month, a year that you'd like to do this. Okay? So again, kind of wrapping all this together, we can ensure that this goal is SMART because we have each of these specific components coming together. Okay. Are there any questions about this? I'd like you to take the next 10 minutes to work through maybe up to 3 examples. Ideally try to hammer out 1 or 2 and get those good examples. These can come from any different areas. So they can be career, they can be financial, they can be relationship, and work through those and create SMART goals. If you have any questions, just feel free to raise your hand. I'm happy to offer and help out.
You won't have babies now. Grown up, by 18 years old. Come here, Jay's trying to have kids at the age. You know that? Too much age on that. It specifically says grown up. Grown up implies 18. And you gotta change it to specific. You don't have to change it. Yeah, what do you say? Have 2 kids that are.
When you're doing this, it may be helpful to think about goals over the next 1 to 2 years. That way you can really make some progress toward them as well. It's okay to do ones beyond that, but I would encourage you to focus on ones that are within the next 1 to 2 years.
So ideally, next year you'd be grateful that you spent time this year to stick this out.
Stay fit. It's my broad goal, but I'm yeah. Quick question.
Yeah, sure.
So, do you have any time after class to talk?
Let me check my calendar. Let's see what likely.
Develop savings.
Yes.
Can we talk after class?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that you had 2 rental properties. Something I want to do. Having a mentor in that field would be big.
Sure.
Why? No, no. Giving a presentation on goals. I feel like that's off the guidance right there. I think my criteria last week was incredibly good. I think you're whack.
It's 2 years from now.
Graduate.
What?
We graduated my
Here you go.
Okay, you guys are chatting, so you must be finished. I'm assuming.
We're discussing.
You're discussing your goals. I've heard that before. So I know you may not have finished this exercise, but I would really encourage you to finish this. It's really easy for time to just pass and to not really be thinking about this and being intentional. So if you haven't had an opportunity to complete this today, I would really encourage you to just spend 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whether between classes or you're waiting for, something, to just take a moment and reflect on this, okay? I also wanted to share one goal that might be particularly relevant for you as well, okay? So this is thinking about how you secure an entry-level job offer, okay? I know that this is something that many of you will be doing pretty soon. So how do you do this? How can you secure an opportunity after graduation, okay? So we want to do this, and maybe your goal is to have at least one job offer by graduation. That would be ideal, right? Everyone have a job offer. For folks who participated and who have been out with co-op employers, I would encourage you to start and go back to those co-op employers and have conversations, okay? Are there opportunities for full-time employment upon graduation, okay? So setting aside some time, planning this into your goal of when you're going to do this, okay? I would encourage you to do this probably late in your junior year, okay? So that way going into your senior year, how awesome it would be to go into your senior year, you already have a full-time offer for employment, you don't have to stress out your senior year, you can just finish your classes and know that there's a job offer waiting for you, okay? If you do this toward the end of your spring, the spring of your junior year, what you also know is that you have all of fall, for the fall career fair, and the spring career fair to pursue opportunities, right? So the fall career fair is an excellent time to secure employment opportunities for full-time hire coming in the spring. During the fall, around the career fair, there's also what's called on-campus interviews. Okay? These are opportunities for full-time employment where employers come on site and interview students, and many students secure employment opportunities through this as well. Okay? And those would probably likely be outside of your co-op employer. Okay? And then you have the opportunity to apply externally to other positions as well. Okay? So thinking about how to maybe set yourself up for success, you might be able to coordinate a plan and set things out so that way you are taking those steps and you're not rushed and stressed during your senior year about how you're going to find employment opportunities.
About half of the students in class of 2019 that I've met with this semester have already accepted something, and about the other half are still looking, just FYI.
Yeah, that's good information. Thank you. Okay. So just some things to think about, and then obviously how this comes together in terms of a SMART goal. Okay. Finally, I want to just continue on and talk a little bit about some other areas. Apologize, I'm not sure why. These transitions are still in there. Okay. I know that many of you mentioned, how can I hold myself accountable? What are some techniques that I can use to ensure that I am successful with my goals? Okay. I think one, using SMART goals and breaking it down that way, it forces you to set deadlines, right, along the way. When am I going to do this? For me personally, it's really helpful to set just Google reminders in my phone, things that are coming up that hold me accountable. It's also really helpful to share my goals with someone else and have an accountability partner, right? Maybe someone that's in your class, a friend, a parent, someone that you can have a written goal and say, can you please touch base about this? Can you hold me accountable and make sure that I'm actually doing the things that I say I would like to do? Okay. Some other things I mentioned, the sticky notes. That works for me to keep things visible. Okay. Does anyone else have any recommendations for your peers about how you ensure that you stay on task and you're making progress toward your goals? Yes.
Yeah, so, lay out your goals and then make a list of all the positive habits and then all the negative habits you have associated with that goal.
Okay.
And then work towards not having the negative habits and making a conscious effort to, rid yourself of those.
Excellent. Yeah, I think thinking about obstacles that could potentially come in the way of completing your goal is important as well. So you can acknowledge when those obstacles might come up and you have a game plan of how you're going to address them so you can continue forward. Excellent. I think also goal setting is an act of self-awareness. So thinking about, is it easy for me to set goals and accomplish them, or am I really challenged by this? And I think that can help you build some systems in place to ensure that you stay on track. Finally, I want to talk about the question of, what if I pursue this a career and it's not a good fit for me? Okay, that might happen. It might happen as your first position out of college. It could be 2 or 3 positions down the road. I think it's important to take some time, as I hope the co-op process has taught you, to reflect on your experience. Why is it not a good fit for you? And being very specific about that. Is it the supervisor micromanages you? Is it the hours? Is it your colleagues? Is it you're just personally lack self-motivation at this moment in time? Is it the type of project that you're working on? Is it personal things that are happening outside of work? What is really preventing you from having a good experience in this position? I think being aware of that helps you decide and use that information so as you pursue the next opportunity, you can make sure to ask questions in the interview process to make sure that that's not going to be a problem coming up. Or you can pivot and choose a different field that is going to maybe allow a more rigid schedule, so you have clear expectations on when you'll be there, or you'll have a more fluid team base to work with as well. Okay. Is this helpful to think about it from this perspective? And then finally, how do you ask for a raise? Okay, so this is my kind of go-to step-by-step process. One, I would encourage you to ask after you've done something awesome, right? So big accomplishment, you just finished a project, and something that you've done well, right? People are still kind of aware of the fact that you did this, and they're more likely to be able to maybe open up their pocketbooks for a raise or some other type of additional compensation. Okay. It's also really helpful to write down what you're going to say and rehearse it, okay, out loud. So it's very different to think about what you're going to say versus actually saying it out loud. So whether it's you're saying it in the car at a stoplight, or you're finding a friend or a family member to practice with, actually practicing your list and your speech out loud helps cement that, and you feel more comfortable when you go to ask for a raise. Okay. Also be aware of what your company's policy is on asking for raises. Sometimes it's not allowed. Sometimes it happens during a certain time of year. Be aware of what the fiscal year looks like for your company, whether they go January to December or they go July to July. Be aware of what that looks like. That may be able to time your requests more appropriately. Okay. Next, dress the part. Okay, so dress up a little bit more than you would normally, right? If you're in casual attire in your work day, don't come dressed in a full suit. But if you're dressed casually, you might come business casual that day. It makes it clear that you're interested in having a conversation, that you take this seriously. It's going to help you be more confident as well in asking for a raise. Okay. It's also important to think about what else might be an option for you. Okay, so maybe they're not able to give you the financial piece that you might be requesting, but maybe you're interested in taking some classes on this as well, or you might be interested in joining a professional organization. Think about some other things that the company could offer that would help you feel valued, even if you're not able to receive the financial compensation. Okay. I also encourage you to have this conversation in person. Okay. This is really important. I think you have the opportunity to answer more questions, to read body language and feedback as well. I think that is important. Okay. Also be aware of the projects and of kind of what's going on within your organization. Try to find a time that's not really high stress. If people are already stressed out, they might be kind of short or not take time to even do this. So that's important. Okay. Also be aware that this is a conversation with someone that you have to work with after you have the conversation, right? So it's really important not to give ultimatums. Sometimes companies will call you on that and say, well, I can't give it to you, so if you said you can't get this, you're gonna quit, are you really gonna quit? Okay, so be aware of that. Be aware of how you approach the conversation as well. That can really impact your relationship with your supervisor. Okay. It's important to gather information, but it's important not to say, well, I know that this person makes this much, so I should make this because they make that. Okay? Really drive home the point that this is based on your skills, the projects, the value that you bring to the organization. Okay? I would encourage you not to share too much information, to say like, oh, I just purchased a new house, so I really need this, or I'd really like to go on vacation, so I need to make an extra $1,000 a year. Okay? This is about your performance, your work. This is not about external personal things. Okay? Also, they often cannot give you an immediate answer. They often need to run this up the chain or go to an HR manager and request that you receive additional compensation, and so it may take some time to actually get that feedback. So it's not uncommon for that to be a couple of days or a couple of weeks to receive feedback. Okay? And then if your request is turned down, it's important not to get too stressed out about that, but to feel comfortable going back and asking again. Just because someone says no one time does not mean that that's a no indefinitely. Think of it as a not right now. Okay? To go about our phrases. Okay? Any questions about this? Is it helpful to have kind of a step-by-step what to do, how to prepare? What other questions do you maybe have? I know we have just a few minutes. Other questions? Yes.
When you ask for a raise, are you supposed to have like a specific dollar amount that you want more, and, like, or are you just supposed to say I want more money?
I think it's helpful to know kind of what you like. Sometimes they will ask you because you might say, I'm looking for $5,000, and they say, well, that's not really realistic, or that's a really high percentage of your salary, and so that might not be possible. So I think it is helpful to have a number in mind. I think it's also helpful to provide a little bit of wiggle room on that, right? Everyone likes to feel like they win, so it might be helpful to adjust that up, that way you can come down, but be reasonable about the percentage of your salary as well. And also understand that typically to get the highest bump in your salary, you do need to change positions to be able to do that. Often that is the most successful strategy to increase your income, to change. But some companies have a more specific timeline, right? Like they review salaries every year or every 24 months. Others do not, and so it really is contingent upon you going and asking. And a lot of that is based on the size of the company and how formal of an HR office and department that they have. Great question. Other questions? Yes?
Do you know what the average percentage of a raise would be for staying in the same position?
It really depends on the organization. Typically 2 to 4% is what most folks could expect. Yes?
You mentioned that the most pay raise is usually from switching positions. What does that conversation look like? And like you heard that there's a manager position open and you want to like put your hat in the ring, so to say.
Sure. So I should be clear. The biggest raise is often when you change organizations because they often don't know as much about what you were making previously. So you can still get an increase in your position within your organization, but unfortunately, frequently you do need to go outside of the organization to get the largest bump in salary. If you're looking to progress within your organization, I think it's really helpful to have that as part of your annual review process. When you're thinking about your professional goals, many engineers either go and become a technical expert or a manager. Okay? So thinking about what you want to be an expert in. Do you want to be an expert in the field, or do you want to be an expert of managing people? And then base your goals around that conversation of how you would like to advance and grow within the organization. To say, I would like to become a manager. Is it possible to have some more managerial responsibilities, or should I go and get an MBA? What does that typically look like within this organization? Questions. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for your time and attention. I'll stick around just a few minutes if you have any questions. Thanks, Ellie.
fresh air.